Hello everybody, I'm trying. Hello. Hello everybody. Okay, this is working now. Just a second, and we will be back on track. So today is going to be an interesting one. We're going to do something a little bit different. So let me quickly share my links. All right, we are good to go now, I guess. Hold on, my internet is really bad today. Okay, I think I need to quickly push this through again. I think this is better like this. I'll shift this to the side. It's not going, so let's just close the terminal. And then this sidebar too, we can close that. Actually, this is a file. Okay. All right. Just making sure my video is good. I'm sorry. All right, everything seems okay. So let's quickly get into it. So the reason for this video is to share how some security methods, about Node.js and how file upload can be handled properly on the server. So what I did is I actually created two scripts, and the first one says bad server-side upload, and there is a good server-side upload, which I did not finish, but I've written the code down, so I'll quickly share that as well. Now, the problem with this is that sometimes we make the mistakes of only checking the file extensions of a particular file when users upload them to validate the kind of file we want them to upload. So for example, if we okay, I wanted to write but I can't find my pen, so let me quickly just do this here. So let's say we have a web server, right? We have a web server, and our users upload an image, right? And our web server receives this image, and we can only we only allow, let's say, certified extension like a PNG, a JPEG, and maybe JPG is also JPEG, but yeah. So we only allow these file extensions, right, on these file types on our web server. Now, when the user uploads this, one mistake we make is to only check for the extensions. So .png, .jpeg, and .jpg. These are the only things we tend to look for, but there is an issue with doing things like this. So, for example, a user can actually upload a file that is not a JPEG. It could be a PDF, right? and then rename the extension of that file to a different type of extension. And now this is where the stuff like maybe they are trying to inject, this a malicious user trying to inject some malware into your code. So in this case, checking this, the file extension alone, is a bad idea. So I was reading today through, there are some specifications for each file format that we use. So here is the page. I think I should link this in the description. So instead of checking the file format alone, right, we can actually go ahead and do a deep dive into the actual file that is being uploaded to the to our web server. So in this case, we are going to check for the file's signature, right? And this table will show you the header of every file signature possible and their respective extensions. So let me show you the bad way of doing this. So I wrote the code here, and you can see, so in this case, I'm just simulating a file upload. So obviously I have the file here. This is an image in my current directory. So as you can see, there is, so we require the path module to read whatever it is in this current directory here. And so I created a variable here called detected type, right? So for every file that is being passed into this function, in this case we'll pass the path of the file to this function, we'll return the detected type, and in this case if it matches any of these type that we expect, right, we'll then say okay, the file extension is correct and we want that. So let me quickly run this code to show you how it works. So this file currently is a JPEG file, right, or JPG file. So if I rename this to JPG like this, and then we run this code here, so I'll quickly clear this place, and then we do this, we say node bad server upload, and then we run this. Now you can see we have this message here that says extension matches the content, and the file extension is also printed, which is JPEG here. Now this is good because I mean this is actually a JPEG file, but here's the problem. The user can do this. They can come here and then, you know, rename their file. Although it's a JPEG they are uploading, they could rename this to, say for example, a PDF, for example, right? So if we go ahead and run this code again, now, okay, sorry, we can do it this way. Let's pass in the PDF. Did I write the extension for PDF? Yeah, okay, so it's there. And then we can run this. You can see this says extension matches content, and the PDF extension is printed on in the terminal. Now this, we all know this file is not a PDF, it's actually an image. So this is how a malicious user can actually come on your page and upload a file that is not what it actually is, right? If you continue checking your files upload with the extension alone, this will cause a problem. They can upload a malware file to your web server and, you know, crash your application, or even steal user data with that. I mean, I can even show you this. For example, let's say I will call this bad, okay, let's say yeah, let's say malware, right? Malware.js, right? This is a JS file. I'll write a JavaScript code here, console.log. I will, destroy your server like this, right? And then I can just go ahead and rename this to, say, a PDF like this. Now this becomes a PDF, right? This says it's a PDF, but meanwhile it's not a PDF. It actually contains some JavaScript. So if I come here and then rename this and upload the malware.pdf, and I run this, right, you can see the code was not able to detect that this wasn't an actual PDF, right? It just sees it and say, okay, the extension here matches the extensions we expect to get, so automatically we will just use it that way. Now that's the problem. So now what's the solution to this? Well, the solution to this is pretty simple. It's by using something called buffers. Now with buffers we can go and read the content of a file, right? Here we only check the extension of the file, which is not enough to validate the file being uploaded to our server. So instead of using that, we can use something called buffers. So buffers are actually available in the global space in Node.js, so we don't need to make an import. So what we'll need instead, we'll need the path, and then we'll need the fs module for reading files. So fs is equal to require like this, fs. All right, so now with this we can read the content of a file, but since we don't want to read the entire content of a file just like that, the file can be of a really large size, we can use something, we can use the buffer to read portions of it, right? And the most important part we need is the first line in the file, I think so, to see the content of the file, and that content will include these signatures for each type of file extension, right? So as you can see, let me search for the JPEG one. Sorry, let's go to JPEG like this. So you can see the signature for JPEG files is FFD8, right? So with this, we can actually make sure that we are aware of the kind of file the user is uploading. So let me show you how to do that quickly. So we can come here, and then I already wrote the code for this, so let's quickly go through it. So you can say, write a function. Let me just go, and I will explain what the code does. So we have this function here. So we'll use the buffer, and then so there are different ways to use a buffer. You can write to a buffer, you can read data from a buffer, you can write the buffers in different what do you call them again? Hold on, I think they are called encoding. Yeah, so we have hexadecimal encodings, we have what do you call ASCII encoding, and so on. So in this case we are going to use the hexadecimal encoding. So I'll just paste this code here. So here we are saying we want to allocate 8 bytes in memory, right, for this particular buffer, and then we will read the file. So R here is putting the fs module in read mode, so we want to read. So we are reading this file from this path here, and read sync, right? Read sync is basically reading from a certain position into a buffer. So for example, here we are saying we want to read from position 0, and we want to only read 8 bytes of character, and then we also want to stop on the same line. So where are we reading this file into is the buffer here, which is the second argument here. And then FD is simply the read mode that we opened here. And the best thing to always do is to remember to close the reading mode of the FS module. So now let's move on and begin to implement. Sorry, let me check how much time have I got. Wow, time was pretty fast. So let's quickly go through this. So we can first of all, just like the way I did it the first time, we will just write the detected type. So at first it is unknown, and then we'll set it once we are done reading it. Now when we come back here, first of all, to check for PNG files, we need to go back and look at the specification, the signature for PNG files. So I'll come here, we'll just do a few of them. PNG is here, and as you can see, this is the specification, the signature for PNG files. So let's just put this here. I'll come back to this. Where is this going? Don't know. Okay, let me just copy the code I wrote here. Okay, so now looking at this, we already know these are the specifications, right? So we are simply writing these specifications into hex format, into a hex notation. So we simply put OX in front of the actual number like this, and then you write it. I think E itself also has its own, so you can see we have 4E here, and you just do it like that. So once we detect that type, we can say this is a PNG image, and then we expected bytes is here. So the reason why we are choosing the first 8 characters of this file signature is simply because we are only allocating 8 bytes of buffer to read this content. So we can check at each position. So buffers are basically strings. You can read buffer the way you read strings. You can modify buffers are mutable, sorry, unlike strings that are not. So there are a lot of things you can do with buffers. You can check their size, you can add stuff to them, and so on. So we only allocated 8 bytes in memory for this buffer. That's why we are reading the first 8 characters in the file format signature. So now the next one we will do, let's just copy the entire code. I already wrote this code before, so we can just quickly do this. Let me cover this here. So there are other ones too. So this is a JPEG, this is for a PDF, and all these specifications I got them from that document. So if you want, you can also read through and understand. Then after we check the file format, we also have we can also check the file extension, just to show that we can detect if the person is providing a fake extension aside the one that is actually required. So this is what we will do here. We'll just get the file extension, the file path, pass it to the extension name method, and then we'll use this type extension object to detect the type that we've already gotten from this side. So now let me just do this. I will just come back here and see here. Okay, so here we go. So we have const extension type, expected extension, So basically, whatever extension we detected, we will just use it to get the actual extension from just the way I did it here. But this time around, this is a better way of doing it, because we are actually reading the encoding of the file, not just the file extension. So now here, this repeat here is just to put a line in the console while printing the result. So what we can do now is to run this code. So I'll say detect file type, right, and then we'll pass in the file we want to read. So I will use the dh.pdf so I mean it's still here, dh.pdf, okay, and then let's run this code to see what happens. So I'll clear this and say node. We are not going to run this one, it's the other one we'll run. Good server-side upload, and now you can see there is a mismatch, right? The mismatch, it says the extension is PDF, but the content of the file is PNG, right? So it's a PNG image that I renamed to PDF, and automatically I was able to detect it by actually reading the encoding of the files and not just the file extension. So you cannot just rely on the file extension for file uploads on your server. You also have to get into the encoding of the file, and every file has a specific signature. So you can read the signature of the file and see whether it matches any of these specified ones here. And if it doesn't, then you can know the user is up to something else. So now, and you can actually prevent that easily. So now in this case, you can see if I rename this image back to, let me rename it back to, it's a PNG image, so PNG image, right? And I try to upload the PNG image here, PNG image. You can see that this will work. So the extension of the file matches the content, and this is the right file to upload, right? So